The following is a commercial-free community educational program brought to you by the Ethel and James Flinn Foundation and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling ashamed, like I couldn't face what I was up against.
I'd had friends that had overdosed, so it was like very jarring for me to wake up and realize that that's where I was headed.
I didn't feel like I could tell any of my friends about it because I kind of felt like maybe they didn't care about me as much as I cared about them.
I budgeted my time so I would never have to stop to think, am I happy? Why am I hiding alcohol in my room?
Ever since I was very little, I saw many things that no one should ever see in their lives.
I didn't know what was going on with me in high school. Unfortunately, I think that I suffered a little bit too long than I should have.
Welcome to Opening Minds, Ending Stigma Campus Challenges. I'm Lauren Sanders. It's truly a silent epidemic. 1 in 5 young people on college campuses will experience mental health conditions. Disorders like depression, ADHD, anxiety, and bipolar disorder, they're all impacting young people in record numbers. There is a mental health crisis today facing America's college students. Evidence suggests that this group has greater levels of stress than any generation before them. Symptoms most often surface anytime from the adolescent years through young adulthood. And it does not discriminate. Mental health conditions impact every neighborhood, every school, every college. Growing up being away from home, being in a new school or college, and finding new friends is exciting for most, but can also produce stressors that can be debilitating. Many young people first experience mental health symptoms during their college years. Too often, they suffer in silence. One of the biggest challenges surrounding mental health conditions is that too often people don't seek treatment because they don't want to be judged, or they're afraid that people will view them differently, or they may even lose relationships. That stigma may come from their own expectations or expectations of family or friends. But there is help. A mental health challenge is a health condition, just like diabetes or heart disease, and it is treatable. Research has shown people with mental health disorders can and do live full, productive lives. Come along as we introduce you to some inspirational college students impacted by mental health conditions, but who got help, and they're living better lives now. We begin our journey at Wayne State University in Detroit, where student Kelly Toll was proactive about getting treatment for her mental health challenges. And she's going a step further to help end the stigma still surrounding mental illness.
When I was around 15 or 16, I was diagnosed with anxiety, manic depression, and bipolar disorder. I have attempted suicide 3 times. I started self-harming again, and that was something I had not done in years. And it was almost like I would get in these moods and almost like sort of black out and come to and realize what I had done to myself, and then I would just start crying and apologizing to my own body, like, I'm sorry, because it's not my fault, I remember just like standing in front of these like 2 bottles of pills and just like being like, let's just wait, another day. Let's just wait another day. I remember calling my mom. I called her, and for the first time ever, just sobbing on the phone, just told her everything, like, I just don't want to be here. I just can't do it anymore. And she shared some of her own experiences with me, and she just told me, she's like, I want you to look in the mirror and say, I love you, just 10 times over. And she's like, you're going to be annoyed at first. You're going to, maybe curse me in the back of your head because it seems silly. But she's just like, look in the mirror, tell yourself you're beautiful, tell yourself you love yourself because you deserve that. There has to be something inside you that makes you feel good. And so I paint a lot, I write a lot, I read a lot. When I look back, I just want to like hug my former self and just say I'm sorry, and just pet her hair and wipe her tears away and just remind her that like you are going to live a very fulfilling life one day.
According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people ages 10 to 24. Each year, 4,600 young people lose their lives to suicide, with over 1,000 on college campuses alone. Often victims suffered from depression or other mental health disorders. Deaths from suicide are only a part of the epidemic. Even more young people survive suicide attempts. Each year, 157,000 young people are treated at emergency centers for self-inflicted injuries. Suicide is front and center in the recently released Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. That program features a teenage girl who kills herself and sends tapes to people about why. Certainly, the rise of mental health conditions among young adults is staggering. Between 2005 and 2014, the rate of major depression jumped 37% in the United States. While the rate of depression on college campuses increases, the number of students getting treatment remains low.
1 in 4 college students at any given point in time can have a diagnosable mental health issue that they're dealing with. Problems with anxiety, problems with mood, oftentimes depression, but sometimes bipolar disorder as well. Early symptoms of schizophrenia or other thought disorders, and definitely issues with substance use.
So when the anxiety is impairing my function, if the anxiety impairs my ability to work with others, to have friends, to go to the events, to perform in the school, to present my data, let's say in a lab meeting session, these are the conditions that are warning signs.
There are warning signs that a young person might be contemplating suicide. Experts say to be concerned if they talk about or threaten suicide, increase use of alcohol or other substances, express feelings of anxiety, being trapped or hopeless, withdraw from people and activities, express unusual anger, recklessness, or mood changes. If someone tells you they're having suicidal thoughts, you should listen to that person. Ask them what you can do to help. Avoid arguing with negative statements they may make. If you think that person might hurt himself or herself, call 911. Then follow up with that person. Wayne State University professor Jeff Kinsel is Director of Counseling and Psychological Services. He's involved with a new suicide prevention project at the Detroit-based college. It's called the Garrett Lee Smith Campus Suicide Prevention Project and supported by the federal government.
So over the course of the next 3 years, we'll be rolling out various kinds of evidence-based programming, the purpose of which is to train hundreds, if not thousands of people on campus to identify better individuals who may be thinking about suicide and know exactly how to be of help to them, to refer them to the resources that we have available on campus. We are just began participating with the JED campus program as part of the Michigan cohort that is made possible by the Flinn Foundation.
According to NAMI, 75% of lifetime mental health conditions begin by the age of 24, so this is a critical diagnosis period. Primary care visits are a pivotal opportunity to screen for mental health conditions. A primary care physician's diagnosis will allow for critical early intervention, increasing the likelihood of successful recovery.
Especially if you struggle with an emotional issue or a psychological issue or a physical issue, preparing for that before you leave home. So what are the resources either in the community or at your college that you can put a plan in place before you get to school so that there isn't a gap where you have a likelihood of falling through the cracks.
The Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Foundation, the Ethel and James Flinn Foundation, the Michigan Health Endowment Fund, and the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan are all partnering to support a cohort of 13 Michigan universities and colleges to participate in the JED campus program to improve student mental health and suicide prevention efforts.
I think one of the biggest steps to help students get the help that they need when they're struggling is really raising awareness. And that's across the board, whether it's faculty, RAs, campus security, other students so that we're aware of what the warning signs are and that we're more comfortable getting the help when we need it. Really giving that student some information so that they know where to start, who to reach out to, and where to begin. And that's what the JED Foundation has been doing nationally. They work with college campuses across the country to make sure that they have good resources available, that they're improving student mental health and reducing suicides on college campuses.
The Flinn Foundation also teamed up with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services as they continue with their Opening Minds, Ending Stigma statewide campaign, which is reaching out to young people about the need to talk about mental health.
Removing stigma is an absolutely critical piece of getting people into treatment and support much earlier. Young people and the college campuses are getting very creative about supporting efforts through counseling centers and other places in terms of identifying early needs, training peers, training professors.
So I have 2 college students, and college is a very exciting time, but it also can be scary. It's isolating. You're moving away from home. You're trying to meet new people. You're trying to fit in. So what I do is I found that texting is a parent's best friend. It's a way for me to check on my kids frequently without being too intrusive.
Too often, young people turn to alcohol or drugs to mask their mental health problems. They may not even realize they have a problem. And that was the story of Mike Kelly. He found himself drinking excessively and abusing drugs. His life was spiraling in the wrong direction until he got help.
Not being motivated to pursue things I usually liked. I was skipping lacrosse practice, just sleeping. No interest in reaching out to friends. I didn't want them to necessarily know how I was doing. I was living out in Holland, Michigan alone and didn't have really a lot to fill my schedule. And I would take a lot of Adderall and I would stay up for, even days at a time. While I was struggling, I think there was a lot of concern, obviously. There were a couple occasions where I'd be hospitalized because of drinking. 2 occasions where I was hospitalized for suicidal ideation. And my family was just really not sure what to make of it. They didn't understand why I couldn't just not act like that anymore. And I didn't understand why I couldn't either. I used to think if I was to stumble, I would have to kind of prove how sorry I was and kind of dwell on it. But now that's helped me shift my focus into kind of forward thinking. Also working with the TAMS team, which is the Tailored Mental Health Management System through the University of Michigan, which does outreach for mental health, helping with a collaborative care, kind of holistic approach to mental health here in Ann Arbor. I do think, there is a lot of stigma in terms of, guys aren't supposed to talk about the way they're feeling. Guys are just supposed to, stoically power through this stuff. I no longer am just kind of existing through life, but I'm actively happy in getting the juice out of life.
Mental health conditions often begin before college years. Aaliyah Phillips graduated from Grand Blanc High School and is holding off on college until she feels she's mentally ready for the stress and challenges that college life will bring.
Walking through this crowded place, all I can think of is your face in the way.
It stressed me out so much more than necessary. And I thought I had to do it. So that was one of the things that was so scary about it. I was like, I have to go to college. I have to deal with this. And I'm gonna just get worse again. It's just gonna be terrible and stressful. I'm gonna hate it.
Going home alone has never been so cruel.
Aaliyah has learned more about mental health by serving as a peer mediator in high school and through a suicide prevention class conducted by former Detroit Lions quarterback Eric Hipple. She is better able to manage her disorders as a result.
We want to talk about it because it's kind of like everyone's suffering at the same time, and at least if we're acknowledging each other, we're not suffering alone anymore.
'Cause I know you're so turn on a light.
Eric lost his 17-year-old son, Jeff, to suicide.
You could see mood changes. You could see he just didn't feel connected anymore. You know, he started changing his friendships, not to bad people or anything like that, but it was just away from the popular kids that he was in with. So he started identifying more, I think, with those that were suffering.
I've never felt so much love in my life.
Do they have something they believe in? Are they motivated to do something? Do they interact with other people? You know, do they feel confident about themselves, and do they like themselves?
Kevin Fisher lost his son, Dominique, to suicide during a break from college. Now he directs the Michigan chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, and guides a NAMI campaign to end the silence about mental illness on Michigan campuses.
NAMI has a program called NAMI on Campus, and NAMI on Campus is designed specifically for college-age students who may be experiencing depression, anxiety, or any other mental health conditions. It provides them a system of support and education so they don't feel alone, because when you're away from home, mom and dad aren't there to help you. Parents need to know not to overlook the little things. For example, what we experienced with Dominique was when he came home on weekends, we thought some of the changes in his behavior were just typical college student changes. You don't care so much about your appearance. You're not ironing your clothes. You're not taking a shower as often. But those can be subtle hints that there is a mental health condition.
We're like a bridge between the counseling center, which is a great resource on campus. We basically connect people who need help. There's so many people on campuses, especially within mental health organizations like the counseling center, that want to help and will be there. And they're also very good at protecting the privacy. So you can go there knowing that no one else knows for yourself that you will be getting help and that people do care.
Sometimes students enter college with diagnosed mental health disorders, or they enter college with factors that can put them at additional risk to adjusting to the increased academic and social demands. At the same time, statistics show 1 in 3 students is also grieving the loss of a loved one, and often that loved one may have committed suicide, which can cause even more issues for someone who already has a mental health disorder. Which is where the organization Actively Moving Forward fits in. Alex Curington, president of the Oakland University chapter, says reaching out to those who are grieving can help lead them to support services that can make a tremendous difference.
One thing that we found is a lot of people who begin these conversations about grief tell us that they feel like they shouldn't be grieving for this long, or that it should be gone by now. And what we tell them is no, there is no time frame whatsoever on someone's grief. There is no set schedule on how you should grieve. It's an up and down, ebb and flow type of situation, and that is okay.
4th and 5th grade, we had a student there that was loved by everyone and was just very cherished. I think she committed suicide. She committed suicide in the middle of the school year, and the school was impacted greatly. And I wasn't at an age where I could comprehend what was going on, and our school didn't talk to us about things like leaving this world.
The rates are truly growing, and it is something that needs special attention, we feel, as opposed to just death by natural causes or other means. Suicide is something that we found is particularly impactful for college-age students as well as faculty, because oftentimes many people don't see it coming and they feel personally responsible for that person's passing.
Alyssa Keller is an Oakland University student who has experienced mental health challenges, but she's taking her mental health seriously and getting the help she needs.
I didn't know what was going on with me in high school. We really didn't have resources at my high school that I knew of. You know, counselors would kind of come out when somebody passed away, but it wasn't really apparent to me that I could go seek help at any time. I know with the anxiety, it was a lot of sort of uncontrollably thinking, not being able to get a grip on life, on reality. The OCD, I mean, followed with that, just not being able to control everything. And so there was a lot of internally battling. It was exhausting to the point where I think that then came the depression. I was put on medications that did not work very well with my body, and I kind of fell deeper into my anxiety and my depression and OCD, and my mom helped change mine and get out of my mental disorders. That was such an empowering feeling, and it's almost addictive, you know. I want to keep helping more people.
At Eastern Michigan University, the message of providing support and guidance to those in need is really getting through via an on-campus program, Safe Now, or Stigma and Fear in Now, as it's also referred to.
Some students, we're seeing more and more today that students are entering the university with diagnosed mental health issues, ranging from anxiety and depression to bipolar disorder, or just feeling overwhelmed even before they get here. And making that transition as a student can be easy or it can be difficult. It's difficult if they don't have the proper tools.
Melina Tumpkin is a graduate student at EMU majoring in psychology. She's part of the Safe Now team and promoting mental health screening. Her ability to function well despite her depression delayed her diagnosis and treatment. Her condition grew worse at college, where she finally got help.
I remember one sorority event where I could not even be present with anyone. I went up to one of the sorority sisters' rooms and was just kind of sitting like underneath the bed in the dark, because I just felt like the world was kind of crashing down. I didn't really feel like I had a purpose, which was really hard for me, because all my life I felt like I had one, and at this moment in time I just felt like I could, you know, die tomorrow and it might not even matter. I've felt all my life that my purpose in life was to help people. And so I thought that if I decided to end my life last year, then there's no conceivable way I could have helped anyone. So holding on to that and just trying to fight to see another day with the possibility of helping somebody in the future, even if it was just one person, was really important to me. And that was the real internal reason why I didn't decide to do anything in terms of taking my life.
EMU student Richard Cole is a transgender male. He struggled with depression for years, which led to alcohol and substance abuse. Overcoming stigma was a big part of his recovery.
There is this stigma. We have this idea that if you need pills to get through your daily life, you're weak, there's something wrong with you. Me being a transgender man, I definitely feel the pressure to be not only just a man, but like the ultimate man. There's nothing wrong with me. There might be things that make living day to day maybe a bit harder, but I think if we all talked about it, we would realize that it's actually fairly normal and it's fairly common and it's okay.
Young people from difficult backgrounds who face mental health challenges are also finding solutions with help from others. Foster children are more likely to suffer from trauma and other mental health conditions. Ronica Hamilton directs Western Michigan University's CETA Scholars Program, which has been providing support for former foster youth at the university.
There's the component of trauma, right? So when you're being taken away from what you know is your primary family and pulled away from those people based on something that was kind of urgent or in the way due to abuse or neglect.
Wanda Barrios Benitez. She came to Michigan from Guatemala as a 16-year-old. She was placed in foster care. Her foster mother was pivotal in helping her overcome a tough childhood. Wanda also suffered from PTSD and other mental health issues. Today, Wanda is a star CETA Scholar student, and she's charting a new course for her life.
Ever since I was very little, I saw many things that no one should ever see in their lives. My dad died from an overdose because he was drug addicted too. My brother died when he was 21. He was killed. When I came to college is when it really hit me. It was like really bad because I was hearing all of these people saying like, oh, I'm going home, or oh, my parents this, or I don't know, different stories that was my life. And I was like, oh, I do not have that. So when my depression kicks, it kicks for months. And then I'm like in a dark hole and I can't get out of it. Talk to my foster mom, which is a big part of my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her.
But like I always do this at work, I put like the date. We've always encouraged her to continue with getting good mental health care, with counseling, and connecting well with friends. She's very social by nature, so we knew she'd be all right.
You just really need the glasses.
No sunglasses.
There's a lot of stigma to sharing the fact that you're feeling depressed or feeling like you don't want to get out of bed today, but I think it's much more common than people assume. So I think just being open about it and talking about it and being willing to just discuss it and bring it out in the open, really just that in and of itself kind of minimizes some of the impact that it has.
I have this tattoo over here, and it says, be strong and courageous, and it says Joshua 1:9.
She's really good at applying her coping skills, asking for help, and accessing resources.
She's amazing. We always say to her, like, she's been such a blessing to us, and I'm gonna cry.
It's true though.
Families and friends can and do play an important role in helping support college students and other young people as they confront their mental health challenges. With vigilance and additional focus from universities, doctors, mental health organizations, and student advocates, help is at hand, treatment is available, and recovery, it is possible. Talking openly about our mental health, just as we do our physical health, is an important step. Thanks for watching Opening Minds, Ending Stigma Campus Challenges. I'm Lauren Sanders.
Even if you're struggling, I mean, you're not able to see it now, but not only are you able to come out of this, that there is a solution for these kind of things, but also that you're going to be empowered through it. You're going to learn humility. You're going to learn that we're mortal, and that, you know, when you need help, it's okay to reach out, like my little sister said, and get it.
Right now, mental health is something that we can change as a younger generation, and I think we're doing it.
It's okay not to be okay, and that there are resources in your local community for you to utilize, and there are people who care about you and your life.
It is a magical thing that each one of us is here. Nothing is by accident. You know, you're here for a reason.
A big part of it is probably God. He's just like, he will never give you something that you cannot take, you know? So that's something I always think about, and I'm like, well, if I'm having this right now, it's because I am strong enough to do it. And I'm here, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna get through this. It's only a time, and then everything's gonna go away. And then yes, it's gonna come back again, but yes, I'm gonna get through that again. And it's just self-talk, I would say it, and it's just like, I try to be as strong as I can and as positive as I can.
I think that if you're a student and you're a young person struggling, you need to talk to someone. We cannot isolate ourselves and struggle by ourselves. We just need to reach out.
This community educational program has been brought to you by the Ethel and James Flinn Foundation and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.